Hi, I'm James Shillinglaw. I'm here with Paul Metselaar, who is Chairman and CEO of Ovation Travel Group. And this is part of our series on how great travel agencies get formed. And we're going to talk to Paul about how he developed his agency over the past, must be almost 30 years. 35 years, and more on Insider Travel Report. Now, Paul, first of all, I knew about your first foray into the travel agency business because I worked at American Lawyer many years ago, back in the 80s, and I think you used to advertise, you told me, with American Lawyer, and it was Lawyers Travel Service, right?
Yes, it was. So I was a young lawyer and found myself in a turnaround situation. My father had a little travel agency that was struggling, and I was, let's just say, I was less than thrilled practicing law. And so at that time, I was the young, I did have some, having grown up in the travel business, I was sort of the travel guy at my law firm. And so when I found myself in the travel business, I remember going to do depositions in California, and my boss, the head of the litigation department, yelling at me because I got these really cheap airfares. He said, "What's the matter with you?" This was the mid-'80s, by the way. He said, "What's the matter with you? We go first class, the client pays the bill." So when I found myself with this little struggling travel agency, and I had rebranded it as Lawyers Travel because I thought this could be a unique niche, which would allow me to grow the business by flying under the radar of the big guys. And that's exactly what we did. And so to your question, one of the first things I did, because American Lawyer magazine was the Bible for the legal industry that every lawyer read, because of course they wanted to see where they ranked with regard to their competitors at other law firms.
I know, I did that list. I know.
The profits per partner, that was what it was all about. And so we actually took ads early on that we couldn't afford, but we bootstrapped along the way, and it started the phones ringing. And that, combined with me going out as a young lawyer and knocking on doors of law firms and saying, you know, I'm a lawyer, I understand how lawyers travel, they change their plans 6 times, everything's last minute, they require a lot of hand-holding, and that resonated, and that's how the business started to grow.
So how many law firms in the end did you represent?
Well, it took about 2 years to finally convince one large firm downtown to try us. But you know how lawyers are. They're kind of like sheep in a good way, in that one firm, when I walked across the street to another firm, I said, well, we handle, so-and-so law firm. Oh, well, you must know what you're doing, so we're going to hire you too. Right. And so that division of Lawyers Travel, that brand has grown to the point where it's now our flagship division, but it is a critical part of what is now the Ovation Travel Group. And Lawyers Travel handles over half of the AmLaw 100 firms today.
That is amazing. You really have a lock on that business.
Yes. Well, so what happened was about 15 years ago, I guess right around 9/11, which was a very difficult time for our company. We were essentially zeroed out. We had an office in the trade center. It was a terrible experience for any travel company, but particularly one based in New York. So we decided that we needed another brand. And what would happen was people that ran law firms, executive directors, office managers, and so on, they would go to an investment bank, they would go to a hedge fund, and they would say, you guys are great, but you just handle lawyers.
Yeah, that's the problem with having a name, the Lawyers Travel Service.
Exactly. So it limited us, and so we needed another brand. And so right around 9/11, or right after, we rebranded as Ovation Travel Group as our sort of umbrella, and under that, Lawyers Travel continuing as our flagship. But what it enabled us to do is to focus on other vertical markets that sort of look and feel like lawyers. Lots of premium business, lots of last-minute travel, and so we created verticals focused on, financial services like hedge funds, private equity, investment banking, entertainment on the West Coast. Sure. The model is always we want to collect as much premium business as we can because we thought we'd be able to get better deals from the suppliers, because that's what drives their profitability, and it's worked. And today, we have over $1 billion of premium air travel that we put through our major airline partners.
Now, so you really stayed in corporate travel, but then at some point you started looking at the leisure market, right?
That's correct. So a few years after I had taken over my father's corporate travel agency, my mother, she had a very successful leisure travel business, and that became our leisure arm. And so I merged that business into the what was then called World Travel Specialist Group before we rebranded as Ovation. And so that business became our leisure arm, which we have seen tremendous growth over the last few years. And that's a very exciting part of the business, and actually a higher margin part of the business.
Yeah, I would think so. Now, what's your split now between corporate leisure and maybe meetings? I don't know if you do that as well.
Yeah, we do, absolutely. We do a lot of meetings. I would say it's probably about 70% corporate, maybe about 20% or 25% leisure, although the leisure part of the business is growing at 40% year over year. The corporate side, about 20%, still a pretty phenomenal growth. And the rest are meetings and special events, which is also growing.
Now, what groups have sort of helped you grow in terms of belonging? I know you're a Virtuoso member,
yes,
and obviously you're probably part of ASTA and all this. What groups have you turned to sort of help in growing your business on both sides, the corporate and leisure?
Yeah, so that's a great question. On the corporate side, we are, I think, the largest global affiliate of BCD Travel.
Right.
While we made an acquisition in London about a year and a half ago, which has been a phenomenal.
That was Chartwell?
Yes, Chartwell Travel, growing. We took another floor recently. We are never going to have the capital to buy companies all over the world and have them be part of Ovation. It's just not that kind of, we just don't have, it's too capital intensive. So we made a decision many years ago, and we looked around at the various mega agencies, and we talked to a number of them, and BCD has the most entrepreneurial, a lot of the similar DNA to us, and so we decided to partner with them. And so for large corporate clients, we partner with them, and it's a terrific relationship.
Yeah, and then on the other side, Virtuoso, you became a member. How long have you been a member of Virtuoso?
Yeah, so actually I have my mom to credit for that. When Virtuoso was still called, I believe it was API.
API Travel Consultants. We're up on 20 years now, actually this year, right?
That's right, and so we were one of the first members of API that became Virtuoso, and that has been a tremendous opportunity for us. I hadn't been to a Virtuoso conference in many, many years, until last August, and I went to Las Vegas.
A little different, huh?
Which is the last place I wanted to be in August, believe me. But it was extraordinary. I mean, the number of suppliers and the networking and the education that goes on. It's really helped tremendously build our business on the leisure side.
No, it is amazing, and the Virtuoso growth, which we've detailed here at Insider Travel Report, and I'll be in Vienna in March, where they will celebrate the anniversary of the renaming of Virtuoso from API Travel Consultants. But yeah, so we looked at that. Now, you also grown your business through use of independent contractors, I believe, and I believe that's been growing. Talk a little bit about how you turned to that mode of operation and how that's grown for you.
Yes, so we've always had quite a bit of independent contractors that we inherited originally from my mother's business many, many years back, and that we had as well some on the corporate side. So some of our independent advisors, as we call them, are focused on leisure, some are focused on corporate, some are sort of a hybrid. And it's tremendously synergistic. So we get leads a lot of times from our independent advisors. Maybe they get a corporate account that they don't have the capacity to handle, and they'll refer it to our corporate side. Or on the other side, we have C-level people from our corporate clients who need tremendous hand-holding, and the last thing you want is to have a CEO of a major corporate client have a problem with their vacation, because it could come back to bite you in the you-know-what. And so it's become mutually synergistic. It's grown together, and we're investing on both sides of the business. And it also helps with supplier relations too, because it's the same suppliers, whether it's on the corporate or leisure side. And essentially what we're doing is we're increasing share of customer. So we always had, if you look at our corporate client as a pie, we've always had half of that very lucrative or high-end travel pie. And so by getting their leisure business, we're getting more share of customer and at a higher margin. And so it's a great investment for us.
And it's a great cross-selling to do both corporate and leisure. Now, and of course, that's a result of the success of your business is evident right here where we're sitting, which is your brand new offices in the Chrysler Building Annex. Beautiful offices. We actually had a whole little event last night to celebrate that. And talk a little bit about why you got this office and what the purpose is.
Yes. Well, look, we had... over the 35 years, when I first started, we had a little tiny office in the Garment Center in New York that was about the size of half of this conference room. And then we moved to another office as the company grew, and eventually we made our way down to Union Square, which was terrific. We were actually pioneers down there. I would say we were there almost 20 years. And what happened was the hedge funds and private equity firms, who have a much higher business than my business, all decided they love Union Square. So when our lease ran out, we knew we needed to start looking for space. And as it happened, I think we hit it in just the right time, because when Hudson Yards opened over on the west side, a lot of the Grand Central area companies moved to Hudson Yards, and we got a tremendous deal, which actually a client of ours who's coming to have lunch with me today, actually, this was their space, a big law firm. And so we're thrilled to be in this neighborhood. And obviously, being near Grand Central, you actually can go into Grand Central if you're commuting and go right through a tunnel to our building here, which is known as Chrysler Building East.
Yeah, and it's really marvelous space, and you got a lot of different large public spaces to get some interaction. You've got great, places where people can sort of squirrel away to get a little more privacy. So it's a very different kind of space for you. I'm sure it's a much welcomed even after your Union Square experience, right?
Yes. Oh, and the other thing is on Union Square, we were on two separate floors, and we're on one large floor now, almost 40,000 square feet. Plus, we have outdoor space, so we can have events out there when the weather gets nice. And so there were people in my company who had never met before, because they were, hidden away or squirreled away, as you said, in their own little cubbyhole. And now we have a cafe, and so people are interacting and getting to know each other. I think that interaction, while 70% of my company is virtual. We have 800 employees, of another 200 and some odd independent advisors and affiliates. So there are only about 150 people here, but those people and the senior managers of our business are able to, collaborate more. It's that water cooler talk that you get. Even though I don't think we have a water cooler,
but you do have a lot of snack. You have a lot of snacks places there. I saw that.
Yeah, we have a lot of snacks, and we have happy hour, and we do a lot of things. We don't have a foosball court like some internet companies, but there's a lot of great amenities here.
Well, I don't know. You may get demand for that. Who knows? But now you've also grown domestically. I think you're trying to grow your West Coast business, and you recently made a hire, and I believe you're looking for space or almost getting space out in the LA area, Beverly Hills, right?
That's correct. Yes, we are really excited. While we've always had probably 80 to 100 employees based on the West Coast, mostly corporate, we used to have an office in LA. And what happened was people just couldn't get to work, and that was on the corporate side.
I lived in LA. I totally understand that.
It was crazy. So years ago we closed it, and we made people virtual. But now that we're investing more in the leisure part of our business, and also it's so synergistic with London and with New York, and the referrals that we have that are just teed up to wait. There are so many opportunities to attract independent advisors to whom we could refer business, because we have so much business flowing into LA, but we needed some brick and mortar in order to accommodate that. So, and we have a terrific manager out there in Anshul Gandhi, who we just hired, and she's working with Gina Gabbard and Tina Rose in London to build that part of our business. And I think that triumvirate is going to be very successful.
Now, looking back, what were the sort of key points for the growth of your agency, that sort of seminal events that really propelled your growth as a travel agency?
Well, I mean, we talked about the ads in the American Lawyer. That got us going. And, figuring out that the only way to compete in a very tough business is to focus on a niche, that was a critical decision that we made way back then. I think also to focus on the high end and to build a culture that values people. And we have a very unique culture here. We have an extraordinarily high retention rate, not only of clients, but even more importantly of our employees. People, in the very few people that have left Ovation Travel Group or Lawyers Travel over the years, I would say most of them came back after they saw the grass was not always greener. And so I think the culture and just the fact that we're an independently owned travel management company, and there's so much competition out there now, but everybody is consolidating and everybody is becoming more bureaucratic and corporatized, and we still, while we are $1.5 billion business in terms of total travel volume, we really run this business like, I hate to say like a family, because families can be dysfunctional and we can be dysfunctional too, but that's part of our DNA. I mean, we get...
Considering it came out of your own parents' travel agency and you work with your mom and everything else, you probably have that sort of background and are trying to use that going forward, right?
Yes. And at the end of the day, I had the honor of about 3 years ago of being nominated for Entrepreneur of the Year here in New York by Ernst & Young, and I went through a process, and they put us in the family business category. I thought we actually should have been in the business services category. Ended up making it to the finals, but lost to a nursing home operator, which was, but it was a very nice honor to get that far. And they asked me, the panel of judges, how did you build at that time we were a little over $1 billion in total travel volume, between, all of the challenges that the travel industry, faced over the years. And I mean, the internet and 9/11 and
OTAs, everything.
OTAs. I mean, airlines eliminating commissions way back when. I mean, there have been so many times that we had to completely reorient and change our business model. And, it's like a startup. It has to keep pivoting. And we've done that. And competitors fell away or were acquired. And, we're sort of the last man standing that's privately owned now. I think the largest in the U.S. at this point in what we do. And we're very proud of that. And because of that independence, opportunities are coming to us, not only on the corporate side with clients they want a more customized, more hands-on approach, and they want to be able to call the CEO if there's a problem, but on the leisure side in particular, there are independent advisors who don't feel like people care about them because they're in and working more for a factory. And so that has generated a tremendous amount of opportunities and growth for us.
Yeah. Now, where do you go from here? You have a new office here in New York. You're going to have a new office in Beverly Hills. You have the office in London. You're growing your independent contractor base, I understand, and really looking for great travel advisors out there to join you. Where do you grow? I mean, obviously, leisure is a big focus with 40% growth. Where do you see for the next 10 years?
Yeah, I actually, after having gone through all of those events, whether it was 9/11 or the global financial crisis, where we were there were existential issues for my company. It's a great question. We want to continue to grow this business, to continue to be independent and be somebody that both corporate clients and independent advisors who are looking for a platform. We want to continue to grow out what we do best, in whether it's very high-end leisure or very high-end corporate business, and using the best of technology to help them grow their businesses. And so we're continuing to invest in that, and we're excited about the future. I really, after having gone through all of that, all those challenges, it's almost like what Nietzsche says, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Well, that's absolutely true. Yeah.
And I feel like I'm almost, for the first time in 35 years, I'm luxuriating in my business. I'm not, of course, having said that, now this week we're dealing with the coronavirus.
That's true. Well,
so
we've done that before. So SARS and everything else.
No, but it's always something. I was talking to the CEO of BCD yesterday, and we were commiserating about that, actually. That's just the nature of the business. Right. There are things that we can control and things we can't control. And so to the extent that we run our business well so we can control the things that we can control, we just have to be prepared when events happen, like the coronavirus has already affected our Asia business. I'm looking at the numbers this morning, and I'm hoping it will be, a short-term issue. But we've learned, having gone through SARS, and I know that we'll get through the other end and we'll be fine. I mean, now we have much more scale than we did even when we went through the SARS epidemic. So, and I'm hoping that China will allow people in to try to figure out a solution, and we'll all go back to be able to do business again. So,
well, we all hope so too. As you said, the travel business is nothing but not interesting on a daily basis. Hey, we'd be bored. I mean, sometimes you want a little boredom, I guess. But Paul, great to hear the story of Ovation Travel Group. I've always wondered, since I heard of you and saw you back in Lawyers Travel Service, back when my first journalism job, an American lawyer, right, and then followed you through the growth of all your agency business and how it got to be Ovation Travel Group. And thank you for sharing your story and your insights on the travel business.
It's my pleasure, James. It was great chatting with you.
I'm James Shillinglaw, and this is Insider Travel Report.